All right. I am catching up with my friend Ron Horry, who just came from a speed networking event. And we were talking about that because put on big speed networking events for years, and I found that they're either growing or shrinking. If you're not meeting new people, there's not a lot of reason to go. Ron was saying that this one was a little down right now. We have to find the best way to get engaged with people in the era of AI. Ron, I've got some really exciting things that I've been working on, and one of them is that fits so well with FinFit Life, and Ron will tell you about that about FinFit Life in just a second. But what I'm doing is I'm using my phone in amazing new ways with voice memos and for podcast listening because I've realized that you can show and tell to help explain things to people, and that you can tell so much on a podcast while you're walking or while you're doing other things, or and then come back for the show part of it. Now, I believe that email marketing is really, I would say, the bullseye of the AI era of communication and engagement because there's so much information out there, and there's going to be so much more information out there that what I want to do is to do a podcast that is also a course, and it's really multifunctional. And I realize that, yeah, I work with the Great Discovery, but I also work with the AI Super Campus and Mail Softly, and that for me, my passion is really about email marketing because you can deliver so much media with email, from text to audio to video to graphics. And it doesn't always have to be video. People kind of get held up a lot of times because, for a lot of reasons, number one thing people hate most is public speaking. And they don't want to be on camera, but it's a lot easier to be interviewed and right on your phone in a phone call than to cut out some time for a Zoom call like Ron and I are doing right now. So basically, because I'm focusing on email marketing and do it yourself AI, to learn do it yourself AI, what my wife and I, Nancy, her name is Nancy, decided is that we want to do a podcast about AI and the future of you and me and all of us together in both our personal lives and our business lives. Because encompasses everything. And since we want to focus on engagement, I want to focus on engagement in the era of AI, and that includes with my family and with my friends. And I'm teaching my kids about AI, and I want to learn from them. And I've got some real eye openers from my kids. And I say kids, they have kids. They're 40. So about really pretty dramatic fear of AI, like even causing the French Revolution with all the oligarchs and the consolidation of wealth in America. These are some of the things that I've heard from their friends and friends of friends. So there's a lot of concern, and I don't personally have it because I believe in the goodness of people. And then I think by coming all together and sharing it and engaging with AI, as Rod and I are doing, that we can overcome our fears and we can figure out ways to, make the most of it and get the most out of it. So anyway, that being said, that's my little introduction. I want to introduce Ron. I'm a little long-winded. Sorry about that. But Ron, welcome and thanks for being here, my friend.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks again, Mike.
Well, what I want to do today, Ron, is as I sent you an email or a little text this morning, and you replied that you got it. What I did is I went into ChatGPT for ChatGPT networking, and I said, okay, I want to send my friend Ron a text to let him know in advance that I want to interview him today about a little broader than his business, which we've been talking about, FinFit Life. Okay. And like AI, FinFit Life is about our lives, and it's about being healthy, wealthy, and wise in our life. So I thought Ron was a perfect interview for a lot of reasons. And I kind of gave him the heads up a little bit about, I want to talk about the fact that we're in AI and the future of you and me and all of us together and what we are all experiencing, what we like about it, and just letting our hair down and putting our feelings out there, our concerns, for me, most of it is excitement. I'll be honest with you, but that's not true for everybody. I see over a lot of the wrinkles that have come up and are, potential with AI. So I've been doing this for 40 years, so I see solutions. That's really what I see with AI. I happen personally believe to take a spiritual approach to it. I believe that AI is a gift from God to help us to solve a lot of the current problems that we have on Earth, and there's a myriad of them. So anyway, Ron, I'd like to get into an interview with you, and I will ask you some questions about, AI, FinFit Life, and really the rest of your life, or what you are observing in networking events that you attend to. So let's talk a little bit about that, Ron. What are your thoughts about AI and the future of you and all of us together?
Mike, thank you for asking. And I have some ideas or some thoughts about, what you just mentioned, because I had a coffee meeting with a woman. She has her own business. And I said, "Are you using AI to grow your business?" And she said, "Oh, I'm really scared of AI."
Right.
And it surprised me. And I said, "Well, what are you scared about?" So that started a conversation. And I think what you said, you talk about your kids
Yeah.
being concerned and, about these, mega oligarchy, multi-billionaires or even trillionaires. And I think well, I'll give you my perspective. I want to be aware of what's happening instead of being fearful, because if you're in a fearful state, it's going to really affect your openness to learning and dealing with reality, basically. Because you look at, back in the horse and buggy age, and then here comes the automobile, and people are going to say, "Oh my God, this is terrible," or, the Industrial Revolution and so on. So, like it or not, or being fearful or not, it's happening. And so I think what we need to do, or my mentality is to learn as much as I can. Well, there are benefits, and then, there are other issues that are definitely legitimate to be concerned about. And I think people who are developing AI, are aware of the concerns and the issues. But I think it's definitely going to impact the workplace. And I was reading an article that one of the areas in business that it may affect the most, one is middle management, and another is routine types of jobs. Call centers is the first thing that comes to mind. So if you're in any industry or profession that may be affected by AI, now is the time to prepare for that transition. And so, I look at it as a tool. I use AI every day, almost several times a day, not only for business but also professionally. And it could be as mundane as, what's the best way to cook chicken breasts? Because I'm an amateur cook, I like to dabble in the kitchen. And so I was following this one procedure and learned, okay, if you overcook chicken breasts, sorry for this tangent, they get really tough. And so I have a meat thermometer, and it really made a huge difference. And so, and also, I like to work out. I like to be healthy. So I'm always looking for the optimal workout routines. So I use ChatGPT on a personal level, as well as business. So I think the tool is what you make of it. And let's say if you have a chainsaw, you may be, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of that chainsaw. Well, just learn how to deal with it as a tool and make the most of it. That's my short take on AI and not only the future but today.
Okay, let me address a couple of things. The two most important things to me are about engaging with other people and overcoming this fear. If you only look at it as technology, then it will be technology. And I think that's a big, big, big mistake. I think it's about engaging with people and using AI for better communication with people because many people who think they are communicating really aren't. They're, communication is a cycle that goes from one person to the other. It's like, okay, Ron could send me a fax. Hey, Mike, did you read the fax? Yeah. But, he doesn't know what I think. Did I agree with it? Do I disagree with it? So until I reply to Ron about, yes, I got it and I read it and I don't agree with it or I do agree with it, that's a dialogue that has to be involved in and engaged with in order to reach knowledge and understanding. So, because that's the key is to reach agreements and understanding and friendship and building human engagements and relationships. And I think that's part of a dialogue. That's why I love two things that I really love, and I'll explain why. I love creating podcast interviews like this. And just if you're listening to this, if you do Zoom calls, you can create an audio podcast on a Zoom call. Really, really simple. Like a minute ago, while Ron was talking, I was coughing, but I was on Zoom, so I just hit mute, and Ron kept talking. And now in the audio, that won't be part of it at all. It won't be interrupted. So it's really easy to use Zoom to create audio for podcasts. Okay, and the other one is this, is that we can create this podcast, but if nobody sees it or hears about it, what good does it do, right? And so, there's a failure to communicate. So that's why I have really been doing a ton of research using my background as a documentarian at NBC in New York, where I was trained by really, really great researchers how to do research and how to really dig in for answers. And I've been doing it for a long, long time about this because I really wanted to get to the bottom of it for me personally, for my family, for my friends, for Ron, for everybody that I'm associated with. I wanted to use my background to do the hard work, the heavy lifting, and really drill into it. So what I've come up with is relook at email marketing because email marketing delivers multimedia. It can deliver a simple text, it can deliver audio, can deliver video, can deliver a graphic, can deliver really anything. It's almost like FedEx. It just delivers stuff. Or an Amazon truck. Let's look at it that way. I love using metaphors and analogies. So that's a good one I like and I just came up with is let's think of email as a delivery truck. Okay. It's a hard working delivery truck. And who uses email? Who in the world uses email? Everybody who's successful uses email. That's who, from Amazon to Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, Microsoft, Google, anybody and everybody uses email. What I love about email, Ron, I was trained years ago by an absolute madman genius in direct response. And because I was a publicist at the time. So what he taught me was what he would do, he would take all of his dreaded junk mail that people get in their mailbox and they'd throw it away and it's called junk mail, not to him. What he would do is he would take it and spread it out on the garage floor, and they'd climb up on a 6 foot tall ladder and look down on it. and look at what was grabbing his attention. What was a good pitch? What appealed to him? What turned him off? What he liked or what he didn't like. So every day he was getting training and of success and failure, of what worked and what didn't work. And so he was learning from this experience that everybody else just throwing away. He was learning and he became monumentally successful, just astronomically successful. Okay. And so that's the way, and I started doing that. And then when email and everything really started to rise up, I started to use my email inbox in the same way. People would trash their emails, and I don't. I look at it as a treasure chest. Every day I get email and I look at it. Oh, great. And the world's greatest, marketers are emailing me every day into my inbox. And I go, great. Oh, wow, I got an email today from Marie Forleo or from Tony Robbins or from this person or from that person. And I look at it and I think, well, what's appealing to me? And it might be somebody that you want to model after who's very successful. What are they saying in their emails? So I really love email marketing and getting good at it. So that's one part of it. Now, the other part of it is, how do you get inside of somebody's head? How do you reach them? Especially today with short attention span theater. And the way to do it is to reach them when they're relaxed, when they're comfortable, when they're out doing other things. And that's why podcast listening is so rich and so important. So what I'm doing is I'm creating podcasts about email marketing. Even though email is visual, you can learn a lot about the theory of email, the messaging of email while you're listening to a podcast about email while you're out on a walk. And then it's show and tell. So then after you hear, wow, this is really great. And I just heard an interview with Alkan Balkaya of Mail Softly with Mike, and he was talking about the importance of this part of it. And now when I come back home after my walk, I can look at it and have a deeper, better, it's not cold information to me about what he's talking about. I can go right into Mail Softly and learn more about it. Now, why do I say Mail Softly? Because I've looked at an awful lot, and I've tested an awful lot of email and email marketing systems. What I like about Mail Softly, one, I like the name because I like to influence softly. I don't want to hit somebody over the head with information. I want to do it gently and softly, just like I would want to build a long-term relationship with Ron, which we have, or a new relationship or get engaged. So those are the things, because if we don't send out our messages and follow up, checking in and follow up and getting engaged in relationships after a networking event, don't just make it a ritual that makes you feel good for going, but you don't accomplish anything. You've got to make the rubber meet the road. So anyway, what I'm excited about, Ron, is that really expanding the podcast to friends and family, my kids, maybe even their kids. One of my kids has a kid who's in college, and she might even be engaged in it. Now, she's in college because she's brilliant. So she's really in high school, but she's taking college courses because she's just absolutely stunning and brilliant at the same time. Just absolutely amazing. But anyway, what are your thoughts about life in the era of AI? Wring your hands or tell me what you like or what you're concerned about, or your life. I want to hear about your life in the era of AI.
That's a really interesting question. I would say there's nothing that I dislike about it. It's very exciting as a tool, the way I use it. And so I look at it a way that, I have this, let's say, some people may have heard of, some consultants. I was thinking of Jay Abraham.
Oh yeah,
And okay, so you know who Jay Abraham is.
yeah, the best.
He is the best. He's not a
Yeah,
household name, but if a business hired him, he would charge $50,000 for 1 day of
yeah,
consulting.
absolutely.
So I look at AI as being a, a 5 or 6 figure consultant for free in all areas. I mentioned cooking, that's just one, health, working out. Also wondering, one thing I asked is, everybody's concerned about plastics and different products. So I said, how can I tell if a certain plastic water bottle is safe or not? So boom, in 5 seconds it came back with the answer. It says, okay, here's what to look for on the label to see if it's BPA free, number one. And so it's to me, it's an amazing resource. In fact, you talked about Tony Robbins. I was on an event that he put on, and Tony, being Tony, the guy who he is, he created his own chat bot, which is on the phone. And it's not available to the public. It's available to his inner circle now. But this woman was talking to Tony's AI chatbot, and she was saying, "Hey Tony, I really want to get some things done, but sometimes I feel tired. I know I should work out, but at the end of the day, I don't have any energy. What do you suggest?" And boom, Tony, in his own voice, responds, and you couldn't even tell that it was a chatbot. There was an interaction, and the woman would say, "Well, what about this?" She says, "Well, that's something you should be concerned about. I know you want to focus on your health." And so, and you look at, there's this whole crisis of mental health these days. And so, I think even the state of California created a health AI app on the phone where you can talk privately about your health, your mental health concerns. I think Gen Z is, that's a real critical issue for Gen Z. So there are a lot of positive aspects. And, even in exercising, I look at, okay, well, what's the optimal workout? I like using kettlebells and, how, I had a little bit of a sore knee. So I would say, okay, well, how can I work out and also take care of my sore knee? Because I want to do some type of activity. So I think, being open to the and the more I use it, the more impressed I am about its capabilities. In fact, I use ChatGPT. So I was asking certain questions, and it knew the whole history of all the questions I had ever asked since I logged on to ChatGPT. So it has a memory, and it's amazing. So it knows who I am and knows that I'm with FinFit Life. And I asked it a question, and I said, "Oh, we're on. Well, because you're with FinFit Life, here's what I suggest." And I didn't even mention that in the prompt. So to me, it's an amazing tool. And like any tool, it can be used to great advantage, and also it can be misused. And I think so people need to be cautious about what is a fake phone, what is a fake voice? How can you detect a fake image of a person? So people really need to be cautious about, they call it misinformation. Basically, it's lies, right?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
polite way of saying
Let,
differently.
let's be candid and
Yeah,
direct and
let's tell it true.
straightforward.
Let's tell it like
Yeah,
it is. This person was spreading information. Well, no, they're flat out lying about, things that were not true.
I
So
saw a bumper sticker around in an era of deceit. Telling the truth is revolutionary.
that's so true. So true. So, there are, definitely things to be cautious about. But to me, the advantages um, outweigh any of concern. I don't have any concerns.
Yeah, I don't either. Two things, okay, that I think are important. One, a comment. I'm on my recumbent bike right now, folks. So if I look like I'm a little weird leaning back, I'm actually pedaling at this very moment as we're
You look
talking.
pretty
Okay.
normal, Mike. Actually,
Okay, well,
I
good.
didn't even
You
tell.
know, so that's one thing. But here's the other one, and this is a big one, a really, really, really big one that If nothing else, this visit today is worth this. I was on with a brilliant woman, and I was receiving some coaching from her about creating a course for a specific platform, a course platform called The Great Discovery. And so I wanted it to really fit into their format and be just right for smooth fit for them. Her name is Sandra Harry, brilliant woman. She is the wife of Dr. Michael Harry, the creator of Six Sigma. And what she was talking about was she was just kind of forlornly scratching her head in wonderment about the cognitive capacity of people when she said, I find it really sad today that we used to put out courses for eighth grade level reading. And today we have to put out courses for third grade level reading. Now, I went in, that was amazing, okay, to learn that. And it's true. But what I did, and I pass this tip on, I now ask AI, do this for me and put it at third grade level. Don't forget, write that down because that's important, honestly. What happened was, I got to tell you, it didn't come out stupid or dribble. It came out in a very simple but explanatory way, step by step, easy to digest, easy to, take in. And if it's not, then you're really struggling. But what we have to do is find ways to get people to help people digest information, because if they push back from it, like if you're in a restaurant, oh, I couldn't eat that, you push back it. But if something easy to digest and to take in, because people don't realize we actually use up calories just listening to somebody. And so you want to make it as easy for people to use it, burn as few calories to take in the information. So I gotta tell you, when I ask Chat GPT for something now, I always say, give it to me at a third grade reading level. And I do think it improves it, even for me to reread it, to tell you the truth. Isn't that
Well, I think
amazing?
it's amazing and really thought-provoking too. I believe it's totally true. Yes.
Well, let me talk about cognitive decline, because we want to talk about people's health, and we want to encourage them to take this podcast out for a walk and learn more about living healthy with Ron Horry and FinFit Life and getting discounts on life insurance because of that. And we want to share information while you are doing things that you love doing. The joy is in the doing. So we want to give you these podcasts, encourage you to take them for a walk, take them on a fishing trip, take them maybe when you're playing golf. In fact, this is funny. I had sent an email yesterday morning to my Chamber of Commerce telling them that I want to put on free do-it-yourself AI training events at 8 a.m. on Friday. So I sent it, and I sent it and said, well, when you're ready, because I know you're busy, so we'll talk about it when you're ready, but I wanted to get it out there. So I sent it off to them. And then I go out for a walk. This is true story. Talk about the law of attraction, Ron. This is mind-boggling. So what happens, I go for the walk and I come back and I'm standing in front of my car, and walking down the street toward me is a friend of mine who happens to be the past director of the Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
Yeah, Jay Lifson is his name. And he will swear that this is true. And that he's walking toward me and he is listening to a podcast as he is walking toward me, as I am listening to a podcast, two of us listening to podcasts. He's walking toward me. I had no idea it was there at all, or that I would even run into him. I'd never run into him before while out walking. and I knew him well. And then he told me, yeah, we're getting ready for the Citizen of the Year award, and I'm going to be the MC of it tonight, and for the chamber and everything, because he's still really engaged with the Chamber of Commerce. So I told him what I was doing. Of course, he loved it. He said, "You of all people would be the one that would come up with this training. It's so great." So, but the law of attraction just boggles my mind. These things that we take for granted. Why would the universe send Jay to me walking, listening to a podcast at that moment, helping to make the point about this? Even the Chamber of Commerce, executives can listen to podcasts and learn and go out and be healthier. Now, what happens, Ron, if you go for walks and if you are with MinFit Life? Tell me a little bit about the benefits of that.
Well, actually, too, one of the benefits, I was listening to Darren Hardy. He puts out a daily 5 minute podcast. And the reason I was listening to him is based on a recommendation of a really good friend of mine who's very, very successful. So I think, it's a valuable use of time. And also, too, one other thing, it's kind of a tangent, but one of the things with FinFit Life, the reason there's this group of people behind me on that photo, it's 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning at a hotel ballroom in Chicago. And we just finished a morning workout. And the gentleman in the blue shirt lying down, that's the president of our company. So when we say hashtag health, we lead by example. So I was out walking and I did this short video of myself. Hey, I'm out walking here. It's a great day. It's nice and sunny. I really encourage you to get out, move your body. This sitting is the new smoking, as I mentioned to you, Mike. And what that
Yeah.
means is if you sit for long periods of time, like most everybody who's in an office, it can affect your health in a very, very negative way over the years and years and years. So it was very short. It was probably less than 2 minutes. But so in addition to podcast listening, you might call it podcast broadcasting, maybe, as a way to create
Well,
content.
okay, no, you're right, but let me explain why I like podcast listening. Because I want people to really understand the true benefit of podcast listening. It's not a random name. It's about being able to learn deeper and
Mm,
slower and more casually. Now, for example, when I was on with the president of this coaching company, you're on a Zoom call, you're listening, and there's other people on it, and you're kind of taking things in. But then because I recorded it, I went out for a walk with it later on and listened to it. Just listen to it. And I absorbed so much more by listening to it. And it's called theater of the mind in radio. It's an old term, that really you can visualize things, you're more relaxed, you're breathing, you're really absorbing and taking things in better and deeper. And there's two ways to learn. They say shock and repetition. So when you are learning from repetition and in a relaxed way, and you're doing something you're not just stuck on another Zoom meeting, like we're all on, and you're kind of falling asleep because, and I literally, had a much harder time staying awake during it, even though she was fascinating. It's just harder. But there's so many benefits to listening, 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 and people underestimate the value of listening. So that's why I believe in multimedia integration. Maybe you learn something from text, something from audio, something from video, but they all have their strength, they all have their weaknesses. I really think video is being oversold today. Oh, you got to do video. Everything's video, video, video. There's value to video, there's value to audio, there's value to text. People like to learn in different ways. I think video is great, but again, I'm not one or the other. I'm about multiple media integration. And but the other one is getting into people's heads. How do you do that? How do you get there? If you can approach them where everybody else isn't approaching them, right? While they're out on a walk, get them when they're doing something, catch up with them when they're doing something else, driving into their car. They don't have to watch a video while they're driving, right? And so that's why I'm saying and I'm going to be teaching a lot about that. I'm going to be using a Chat GPT to really help me uh, educate people about the value, the huge value. And if you could get, 75%, 80%, even 90% out of an audio from rather than a video, it's worth it, to be able to do it while you're doing something else, something good for you or something that you're just not stuck. Like right now, we agreed to meet at a certain time and da da da. That was a synchronous meeting. But asynchronous meetings can be far more valuable. And there's companies like Loom that are focused on asynchronous meetings and so that, helping people to save time getting out of meetings. So that's 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 my belief system. So I'm going to be focusing on email marketing and podcast listening in conjunction with multimedia, because email will deliver anything.
Right. I think one thing you said about the podcast listening aspect is you're away from your computer, you're away from screens,
Right.
which is such a huge distraction.
And
And
you
so,
don't have to be scrolling, you're just listening.
exactly. In fact, sometimes I'll re-listen to the same content because it'll sink, it'll just sink in on a deeper level. So, I look at accelerated learning. How can I not only learn, but also how can I retain and then remember and use the information that I learned? Some people say, "Oh, I've read 100 books last year." Okay, well, what do you remember from those 100 books? So it's not just quantity, it's quality. In fact, I think one person said they changed their strategy. Now they read 2 books a month, but on a deeper level. So I think back to the podcast listening, you're away from screens, you're moving your body, it sinks in, because listen, we learn in different ways. There's visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So we have that listening aspect, and it also probably has a subtle deepening aspect as we're moving our body. So it's auditory and kinesthetic combined. So I just thought about that.
Yeah, well, you're right. But you know what else I love about this podcast, Ron? Now that we've widened the specter of it, I am learning stuff from you about cooking chicken, and I'm 100% serious about that. You know what I mean? Because when we look at this podcast for listening about really everything, AI and the future of you, um, you know, I was watching Family Feud the other night, and one of the things when you want to get romantic with your wife, what's one of the things that you do, and that is to cook for her. And so, you talk about those kind of parts of life and how that opens up a benefit to your wife because what you learned from AI about cooking chicken, and then she gets to eat a more delicious chicken meal. And who knows where romance goes from there. So, anyway, it's just crazy. But I love this part of opening up the broadcast, the podcast. And I'm going to be catching my wife on the phone because with my smartphone today, Ron, if I'm on with my wife, and I will tell her, of course, I can hit one button on my phone. This call is being recorded. And now I'm recording on my phone, that phone call. And now that's a podcast about her life in the era of AI. What are you doing, babe? Well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's about our lives. And that's how you get engaged. That's how you build relationships.
Exactly.
Talking,
And then let's say, depending on the topic, you could share with your kids and grandkids.
I'm going to be interviewing them about AI, and she's going to be interviewing them too. So, and we're going to be doing it. She's still a flight attendant and she's not retired. But, we can do a podcast when she's in, uh, you know, um, London or in New Zealand where she's flying. And what's it like? I mean, this is going to be so much fun and so much more engaging with people in relationships and breaking it out of just business networking. It just, that's when people have their sales resistance up. When you're just talking about business, that wall goes up. Well, when you can drop down that wall and really get engaged with them and get their sales resistance down so that because you're not trying to sell them, you're just influencing them, you're educating them, you're building relationship with them, you're getting engaged with them to figure out what they need and want. And it's just going to be so much more fun.
Well, I think that's a real key thing because, if we're having fun and learning at the same time, it benefits both. Because actually, one of my thoughts is, I need to find or ask, ChatGPT, hey, how can I have more fun?
Yeah,
And it'll come
exactly. That's a
back with
good, see,
suggestions.
these are things that people don't really think about that you and I are bringing up to them on their walk. So I'm learning things from you all the time. I do
And
all
vice
the
versa.
time. And so um I'm learning, oh wow, that's a cool idea. So I'm going to put this together into a very simple, fun little podcast format, okay, that you can share. And what a cool way for people to get to know you better by helping them, not just in, you know, my wife helped, and I'll just call her a friend right now, a woman going through a tough divorce, how to use Chat GPT to communicate with her spouse's attorney. And they thought that she was suddenly had an attorney and she was doing it herself. But Chat GPT was talking to the attorney in a way that was reasonable and sound and influential over the attorney that they were kind of pushing her around and bullying her, and they backed off and she got the divorce settled in the way that she wanted, and it was a tremendous benefit. These are things, if we don't share these things, with younger people of all ages, that's why I want to get my kids involved. I want to do cross group podcasting and sharing and networking, of course, about our lives, because their lives are very different than mine.
Absolutely. Well, I think one encouraging aspect about technology is I heard that not only young people, but even some older adults are ditching their smartphones for flip phones, right? Very basic, maybe texting only, no apps. And so it's a positive sign that people are concerned about being so overly distracted by technology, and they're doing something about it on a personal level. And so it's an encouraging trend to see that people are paying attention and they're taking steps to simplify, their life.
Well, I will just put this note out too about that to comment on what you just said, Ron. But there is a condition, a syndrome called brain rot that Oxford University called the word of the year. But what was just interesting to me was how universal it is, because Pope Francis just came out talking to 9,000 journalists about the importance of them reporting on brain rot and what brain rot is doing to your spiritual life, your family life, your religious life. It's, and Psychology Today has written about it, Forbes, Fortune, very, very credible, sources are talking about cognitive decline by constant scrolling and scrolling, or mindless scrolling through information that doesn't get you engaged. Well, what we're talking about is engagement with people. Listening to an hour podcast where you're out for an hour walk that'll do you some good and learning all these things, and then come back. And you can take notes in your phone while you're listening. You can stop, sit down, and go, "Oh, that was a good point." Ask ChatGPT how to have more fun, like Ron said, or how to cook chicken breasts, or how to do this or that. Remember to do that when I get back. Note to self. So don't forget to, take your notes or check out the video of things when you get back. So that's what we want to talk about. But this was a great meeting, Ron. You're always so game for learning new things and changing and
Yeah, why
teaching in
not?
this. Yeah, and you know what you are too, Ron? You are the model because you are both a learner, a student, and a teacher at the same time. And so you have both of your hats on, and you're both learning and you're teaching, and that's what I try to do too. So you are a real role model for everybody, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Mike. I think, we're part of two members of the Mutual Appreciation Club, so I appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, that's it for today, guys. We're going to share more. We're going to do more screen sharing. It's simple to do, Ron, and I think you'll I'll let you close it. I'll have the last word here. Next time, and maybe I'll record some to go with this podcast. If people don't understand how to go on Chat GPT and just start to engage with it, how
Good
simple
idea.
it is. But like Sandra Harry told me yesterday, she said people want you to show them. And so I will be showing them how to do it just so to help them and get started. But since we're still out with them on their walk, hopefully, why don't you just explain to them through theater of the mind what it's like to engage with just Chat GPT, Ron?
That's a good idea. I think just, even the basics.
Yeah, what would talk about that? What do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do with Chat GPT when you go on? Just explain to people, here's what I do, here's how you can do it.
Okay, well, here's an example. I was asked to do a LinkedIn training for our business team, and it was, it'd be really short, 20 minutes. And so what I did was I said, okay, and some of these people are not using ChatGPT or any AI bot very much at all. So I created this text message that's going to be an introduction to my Zoom training. And I said, okay, here's how you can access ChatGPT. Here's the website. And then I put in several because some of these people have a LinkedIn account, but they're not using it. Some people are not using LinkedIn. And so it's basically marketing oriented. How do we get our health movement message out to more people? Because that's at the core of what we do. And so I said, okay. And so back to LinkedIn, this will be really quick. I said, get a Chat GPT account, and here's what you type in. How do I set up my LinkedIn profile? That's it. And it saved me from going into, 15 minutes just on that one topic. And I learned some really good tips to revise my LinkedIn profile. And so that's kind of a tangent on the business side of it. But also, here's a quick footnote to the chicken. I didn't know it was going to grab your attention so much. When you're cooking chicken breast, you want to get a meat thermometer. And I just happen to have one because if you go over 165 degrees in the chicken, it's going to get very tough and chewy. And I found that out the first time I tried this recipe. So anyway, enough of the
No,
chicken.
no, no, that's great. But back to LinkedIn. That is so important, Ron, because we all have to rebrand ourselves for the era of AI. We all do.
Exactly.
I'm a branding guy forever, guys. And I have to rebrand myself. So I just was doing that same thing about LinkedIn, how I need to rebrand myself on LinkedIn now with the era of AI. And I've already started doing that, but I'm going to continue working on it too. So you bring up a very good point for everybody. So as always, Ron, it's been a great ride with you, and thanks for helping me. And I will listen to this again as I go for my walk, and I'll send it to you. And I hope you can share it with people who want to learn more about AI and the future of you and me and all of us together and how we can all help each other.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you and have a great weekend.
You too, Ron. Thanks. Always great to see you, my friend.
Yes, my pleasure.
I'll send you the podcast to share. We got a super serve and super share in the era of AI. So thanks for joining us. With
Yes,
Ron Horry, I'm Mike Hayes. Thanks,
happy to
everybody.
be here. Take care, everybody.